Good morning, everyone. Boker Tov. They tell a story about a Jew, a Hindu, and a politician who were riding along the way and their car broke down. And they needed a place to stay, so they knocked on this farmhouse. And the farmer opens the door and they say, "Our car broke down. We need a place for the night. Can we spend the night?" And the farmer said, "I'd love to have you, but I only have 2 beds. So only 2 of you can sleep in the house. One is going to have to sleep out in the barn." So the Hindu says, "I'll sleep in the barn." So the Jew and the politician go into the house. The Hindu goes out to the barn. 10 minutes later, there's a knock on the door. The farmer opens up, and the Hindu is standing by the door. He says, "What's the matter?" He says, "I can't sleep there." He says, "Why not?" He says, "There's a cow there. To us Hindus, the cow is sacred. I can't sleep in a barn with a cow." So the Jew says, "You know what? I'll go out to the barn." He goes out to the barn. 10 minutes later, there's a knock on the door. The farmer opens the door, and the Jew is standing there. He says, "What's the matter?" He says, "Well, I went out to the barn, but there's a pig there, and I'm a Jew. I can't sleep with a pig in the barn." So the politician said, "Okay, you come in. I'll go sleep in the barn." 10 minutes later, there's a knock on the door. The farmer opens the door, and the cow and the pig are standing at the door. You know, people talk about politicians, and we're living in a very political season now, and we understand the downside of politics. It's about power, it's about fame, it's about ego. And that's what this week's Torah portion is about. It's about a man by the name of Korach who leads a rebellion against Moses and Aaron. And he says, "Moses, why did you appoint yourself leader and your brother Aaron as high priest? Why are you taking all the power to yourself and all the prestige and all the status? I want to be the high priest." And of course, Moses didn't appoint himself. God appointed him, and God appointed Aaron. So he was really rebelling against God, driven by ego and power. And Moses says to him, "You have enough. You're a Levite. You also have prestige and power and status and leadership. Why do you want to be a Kohen?" And of course, we know the tragic end. The earth swallows him up with his 250 men. But the question is, the Lubavitcher Rabbi asks, if Korach was such a terrible person that he led a rebellion against Moses for power, politics, why is it that the Torah portion is named after him? Why does he get the honor to have a name of a Torah portion after him? The Rebbe says it's because there's something to be learned even for Korach. You see, yes, Korach was driven by envy, by jealousy, by power, but also he wanted the role of a Kohen Gadol. The role of a Kohen Gadol is a sacred role with a lot of responsibilities and obligations and restrictions about where you can go and where you can't go, who you're allowed to marry, who you're not allowed to marry. But what he aspired for was a position of spiritual greatness with the holiness and the responsibilities that come along with it. And therefore it's called Korach, the name of the Torah portion, to tell us even though he was misguided and mistaken and was punished for it, we still could learn something from him. That we should aspire for positions of leadership, of greatness. We should want to be great, to be a high priest in our own way. We shouldn't want to just be bystanders and spectators. We should want to be activists and participants and leaders. And when we see others doing good, we should be inspired and want to also assume that position. One politician that really stands out as a great example of what a true leader is and how politics could be used in an amazing way is Senator John Fetterman of Pennsylvania. He has been a staunch supporter of Israel, even though he's part of the progressive left, and many of his supporters are protesting his support for Israel. He has stood firm. From day one after October 7th, he posted the pictures of all the hostages on his office wall, and he said they're not coming down until they come home. And many of his top staffers left his office because they don't want to work for such a pro-Israel senator. And when one Friday night there were protesters outside his house, he went up onto the roof of his house and waved a big Israeli flag over his house in front of the protesters, defying them, standing tall and proud, not afraid of what members in his own party may say about his support for Israel. About a month ago, he renounced his own alma mater, Harvard, and went to Yeshiva University to receive an honor, a PhD at Yeshiva University, to show his support for Israel and the Jewish community in the face of campus anti-Semitism. And this past week, he went to Israel for the first time in his life to show support in solidarity for Israel. And he met with the Prime Minister, and Benjamin Netanyahu said, Senator Fetterman, you are the best friend that Israel has ever had. And there in Israel, he called for unconditional support of Israel. He called on the Biden administration to send Israel all the arms they need, including the 5,000-pound bombs that America doesn't want to send. He said, I trust our ally Israel to use those bombs properly. Israel doesn't want to kill civilians, but they have to get to those tunnels, and they need those 5,000-pound bombs. And he said there should be no ceasefire until Hamas is completely defeated. He said, what's the point of leaving Hamas in power and sending them funds to rebuild Hamas? They're just going to use it to build more tunnels and to create more rockets and to bring more terrorism to the people of Gaza and to Israel. And so he said there should be no ceasefire until the war is won and Hamas is defeated. And finally he said that yes, Netanyahu should come to Congress and should address the United States lawmakers. And unlike many in his party who are saying they're going to boycott the speech of Netanyahu in Congress, he loud and clearly said that if Israel is our greatest ally, which it is, we should be happy to welcome its leader to come speak to us. After all, we support them. This is an example of a leader, a politician, who is using his power for good, one we could all strive to emulate. Have a good day.